Hello and welcome to the Libri Labra book club. Here we are in 2024. I'm joined by my husband, John, aka BookTube hubby, and also by book club VIP member Tom. And just really quick, if you ever want to join us on screen for our discussion, you can do that by becoming a book club VIP member on patreon.com/Libri Labra. And there's a few other perks. You get to see some behind the scenes stuff. You get priority commenting, you get a custom bookmark, and you get to be part of a Facebook group where we talk about some of the media we're consuming in addition to helping us decide what we're going to read. So you would be in a rotation to help choose a book. This month we are we're discussing The Rules of Civility by Amor Towles. And Tom, this was your pick. So tell us a little bit about why you picked it.
Number one, I read and loved A Gentleman in Moscow, written by the same author. And when I went to look for New Year's stories, this one came up. And as you know how the novel starts, that's why it's on that list. So, yeah.
Did he write this before A Gentleman in Moscow or after?
I believe this is his first book.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Awesome. So we'll just kind of do initial thoughts, and then after that we'll jump into spoilers. So if you're interested in reading the book and you don't want spoilers, go read it, come back. This video will still be around. So initial thoughts.
I liked it. It was all right. It was good. It was a good story.
That's it.
It didn't keep me enraptured, but it was enough to it was enough information and dialogue, I guess, to keep it going.
How about you, Tom?
Good when it came with it.
Well, I didn't know anything about it going into it, other than, like I said, it's a New Year's story. That seems good, and then, like I said, I had read one of his other novels and I loved it. So, and it's easy to say, well, it's not that novel. It's like, well, yeah, it's his first novel. So, but I ended up liking it anyway. Go ahead.
I do remember that there was like New Year's stuff in there, but had you not said, had you not just mentioned that, I wouldn't have like associated.
That's the reason why I originally picked it, because it's like, oh, I want a New Year's story. Oh, this one starts on New Year's, so here we are.
I enjoyed, because it takes place in New York, so I enjoyed hearing all about New York in the 30s and the early 40s. There's so many things that, like, as a New Yorker, you kind of take for granted, like the names of the streets and why they're named that way, and like all the real life existing families that owned parts of it or built it or whatever the case was. So it just kind of gave me things to think about that I hadn't previously thought about. So I really, really enjoyed all of that. The writing was good. I thought it was interesting that there was no quotes around the dialogue. His formatting for the dialogue was completely different than what I'm used to seeing. And I thought the writing was good, and the narrator was great too. It's a narrator I'm familiar with. But it didn't feel like, I don't want to use the word boring because I feel like that's a little bit too strong, but it didn't like super hook me either. So that's kind of where I was with it. Okay. But we can now jump into spoilers.
Well, while reading this book, I immediately thought of The Great Gatsby and The Bold and the Beautiful. This is obviously like the same kind of idea. The rich and the ultra rich, and the not so rich, coming together and, okay, let's see what happens, sort of a thing. But I mean, the novel opens New Year's Eve, where Katie, content, not content, content, and her friend Eve Ross are out on town. They encounter Tika Gray, who is, of course, the rich person in this narrative for the moment. And then at the end of the first part, surprise, they get taken off stage. They being Evelyn and Tinker. And it's like, well, that's an interesting choice, because I thought the book was going to be about three of them. So what did you guys think of that choice?
I thought the book was going to be about Tinker.
Yeah.
But then it seemed like it was mostly about Kate and just like her reflecting on all her experiences and her encounters. And so that was a bit of a surprise. There's also, I guess, a frame story happening, which you sort of missed.
I guess.
Because doesn't the book start off with her and her husband at the museum?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I remember at the end they're talking about Val, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, his full name is Valentine because they even mention him in the middle of the book where he drove her home. He drove her home for some reason. Like she was at a party that his dad was throwing, or I don't know, but his dad was there and his dad was like, no, don't catch a cab. Like my son will drive you home.
That instance.
So that's how she meets him. So he's mentioned like 3 times in the beginning when he takes her home and then at the end. Which is also interesting because at some point I was like, oh, she's going to end up with Wallace. So that didn't quite happen either.
No. Or Dickie for that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So no, but I he uses the I guess I can't think of the word I want here, but yeah, the idea that we're giving you a scene at the beginning of the book. We're not giving you any context, but that's what the book is about, is like giving you the context to say, okay, now you can understand the scene. If you had read it now, I get why he looks different in the 2 pictures, for example, like a before and after, or after and before sort of a thing. So I recall one author doing that as well, Frederick Bachman in A Man Called Uwe. There's a scene that he sets in at the very first chapter, and then he brings it all at the end. He's like, okay, I understand now why that is happening. So
okay.
I haven't read that, but we watched the movie. I do still want to go back and read it though.
It's a really good book. But like you said, we get mostly Katie's thoughts here, but even she's not really introspective though, I don't think, because we don't get any of her inner life really. It's just like how she reacts to things,
right?
Like how she reacts to Anne, Grandin, and Tinker, for example, or it's like we know she's angry based on what she says she does, but it's not like like there's no interior monologue or anything that I thought was interesting.
Well, I think
very protective.
They also kind of establish her as a character that's just very straightforward. Like, she behaves how she feels, what she means, so that she's not ever really making flubs or mistakes or hurting people or anything. So that kind of feels like a little bit part of that as well.
Plus as she rises higher in society, I like the contrast where she's like, hey, I'm just cool going home reading my books and chilling. I don't need that to make myself happy. So, but at the same time, the book is also good at showing it. It's like, well, how many opens doors in a sense, and essentially like that's almost like a billiard effect. Like she meets these people, and then they introduce her to these people, and then like she moves further and further up, the social ladders to the point where they crash the party, and then eventually she can go as a guest in her own right, sort of a thing. I thought so.
I don't think any part of the story went in any direction that I was expecting. which I guess, which I guess is good. but I don't know. I guess maybe I didn't know what to expect. I assume this is kind of classified as like a historical fiction.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think, there was a moment where I thought it was going to be more of a love story between her and Tinker, especially. Well, we knew she was with
it is kind of
a story about them.
Yeah, it is kind of though. I think.
But we did know that she ended up with Val, so obviously, that.
No, but we didn't know Val at the beginning of the book, though. Like we didn't know who she ended up with until.
I assumed she was because she reflects on all these memories that she has and how she wants to keep them to herself, and that Val wouldn't mind if she shared them, and it would probably endear her more to him, but she just wanted to hold on to them herself. Like she wanted to have a little secret. So I think they did make it clear that she was with Val and that was her husband.
Okay, I didn't pick that up then, if that's the case.
I think I do recall a little bit about that.
Okay.
It was just the it was a reminiscent. Wow, that's crazy. She's just like, oh man, should I tell him about all this crazy stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like pretty much after seeing the picture. So like, yeah. So you do know that she's with Val in the beginning, but then I was like, okay, so what happens to him? I don't know. Like these people kind of just like drop in and out, and honestly, as they're dropping in and out, I kept saying, "Are they dead?" Like, I really thought like even at the first thing that was happening with Eve, I thought they had found her dead, not just drunk.
Right.
So, and then like that. That's mentioned a couple times that she was like somewhere and got picked up and she was like, totally out of it. And I kept waiting for someone to get a call that Eve was dead.
You don't have a body. So, well, it's like with Wallace. It's like, oh yeah, you doomed yourself now. You're not going to survive this novel. And sure enough, And
then even with Hank, somebody was talking to her about Hank and was like, he's gone for good,
Yeah,
and I was like, what does that mean?
It made Kate think that he was dead too.
I thought he had
versus just he shipped off to the military.
I thought he had died by suicide or something when they were talking about he burnt all the paintings on the roof and then but then he was like, he enlisted. I was like, he enlisted.
Why are you gonna talk to me like he's dead? What the hell is the matter with you?
So, and even my camera is not being nice.
Oh no.
Yeah. One of the wires is not working properly. Yeah, I see the camera going in and out. Hold on, let me see if I can. It's just.
I think it's ruining StreamYard actually. Like you had to restart the app last time.
Oh no.
That's
Oh, there we go.
What did you do?
Right. Well, now it's this camera, so we're just gonna have to deal with this camera.
No, don't move.
Or is it? No, it's still that one working. Okay, I'll try not to move. Whatever. So I'm trying to think of what else happened. Oh, like even with the start of the car accident, I was like, what is going on here? He obviously feels guilty. I hadn't expected, because they had already kind of established that he seemed to be leaning into Katie. So I was just like, wow. And Eve.
And he felt responsible for.
And I get that. And like he was trying to care for her and all this other stuff. But Eve wasn't happy. She didn't want to be there. She, I don't know. I guess they're just a bunch of flawed characters.
Well, no, but Eve is true to herself because she says early on in the book, it's like the only thing I don't want is to be under somebody's thumb, and that's the big, when the big reveal says, "Ha, I'm not marrying you, I'm out of here," sort of thing. So, well, that's but again, we don't know why. Like, did she feel angry toward Tinker for causing the accident? It seems like the answer is yes, but we don't know.
I don't know if they described it, But how bad was her scar? I know she ended up with a scar on her face,
Yeah.
but like, I don't know if that was just like, yeah, I don't know how bad, like how much that.
Well, I think the point of it is that she wasn't perfect
The
like she
same,
was before.
right? Yeah.
So,
Were either of you surprised she kept the ring?
no.
I was. Like, I don't know. I feel like if you're gonna reject a proposal,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's right to keep the ring. I mean, obviously she started a whole new life with it, but
Well, that was the plan all along. See, I think it, that's what it seemed like to me. Because the impression I got was that she hated being at Tinker's, but she was just putting up with it till she could see ya. Bye bye.
because I mean, like, couldn't she have done that with the earrings she found?
Apparently not. Yeah, it's the difference between, like how Katie inherits something from Wallace. It's enough to keep her, like so she doesn't have to work, but it's not enough to like make her rich.
Mm-hmm.
And it seemed like Evie wanted to be rich. So.
And I feel bad for her parents, who obviously cared a lot about her.
Mm-hmm.
Like she could have at least
Evie,
sent them a note.
you're talking about Evie, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, she could have at least been like, "Hey, I'm going to California."
Well, like I said, she just wanted to be independent, and that's why she chose to do it. Which I don't know, is kind of vindictive in a way toward Tinker at least, But again, we all we see are like the postcards from we're often friends or whatever they were, or on the cruise or whatever. But again, you don't know outside looking in what's actually going on. So.
What I didn't understand is like, Tinker seems so upset when Katie finally like connects the dots between him and Anne.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes through all this trouble to keep reaching out to her to be like, we need to talk. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. I want to talk to you. And then like, finally, when she's like, okay, I'll forgive him and spends some time with him, he just ups and leaves and disappears.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get it.
Well, the implication is that Anne threw him out of he made a break with Anne, and therefore he didn't have her money. So it's back to the war of being a longshoreman again. But to that point, it was interesting to me how at the end of the book, she finds out that he actually never left New York. She thought
She thought that he left.
all these things, but yeah. And I said, well, what does that say about our relationship? It's even down to the last line of the book where she says that she always wakes with his name on her lips. What are we to make of that? The one that got away? Who knows?
Even more surprising, I think, was finding out that like Anne helped her get that job with.
Yes. But then again, Anne benefits too because she was grooming her for something else too. Because she was totally saying, "Well, I don't have Tinker anymore. How about you? You want to go to bed with me?" So, yeah, to the point of actually offering her Tinker's apartment.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So, well, I lost one. I'll just replace it with somebody else now. Doesn't matter. So
crazy.
So is that actually paying more to the point of she's helping other like people that don't have such resources in order to have them owe her something?
Yeah.
And that's what Eve was avoiding.
Yep. Again, it's another way of being under somebody's thumb because you're beholden to them. And that's the difference between the two pictures. it's like Milton's Paradise Lost. It's like, is it better to rule in hell or serve in heaven? Clearly for Tinker, he did the serving in heaven, but it's like, well, no, I prefer to rule in hell. And he went back to the docks. So, I was much happier for it, apparently. Desirai, you look like you're thinking about something.
I was just thinking about like what Hank had said, because originally when he made the comment, I thought he was talking about Eve. I don't know how he referred to, but he was just like that something woman, talking about who Tinker was with. And again, I thought it was Eve, but later on, Katie figures out that he was actually talking about Anne. So I'm just, outside of like just that during this time for a woman to be sleeping around and not being in a marriage, I understand that had its own perceptions. But other than that, what made Anne such a horrible person?
Well, she's clearly used to getting what she wants.
or outside of the fact, like what we said earlier, that she helps people, but with the intent of having them work for her afterwards.
She's never been told no, in other words. So, and so it's clear that she'll do what she has to get what she wants. So, does it harm anybody? Probably, logically, but it is a pretty good deal. You get that snazzy apartment and whatever. And Tinker had his, he was actually doing work. He was actually a banker and such, I imagine. It wasn't just like he was like her plaything there, which he was, but he had
probably making her money too.
Yeah.
Right.
He's a kept man, obviously, but he does have like a job and such. It's not like he's just sitting in his apartment all day for trying to do what I'm trying to say. So, and Eve is the same way. It's like Eve knows what she wants, and she's going to do what she has to get it, according to her lights, good, bad, or indifferent. Surprising, in any case, but still.
I was like, I don't know. Eve seemed to be kind of mean to Katie in like multiple instances, I feel like. But yet, it seemed like Katie still was a decent friend. But I don't know. Eve was pushing her away in different scenarios.
Yeah, but apparently it's a thing where they find Eve in the gutter. Oh, we're gonna call Katie now to get her out. Who's is this her? It's like, yeah, that's her. So
the second time she called with the same had the actor do it, I was like, I was like, how the hell did it the second time? That doesn't. And then she was like, did we get you? I was like, okay, all right, cute.
Would you say from Evie's point of view that they were frenemies or not?
Well, I mean, they were friends, and then I think Tinker actually caused whatever rift there was, and unintentionally, like it was just because he felt responsible for what had happened, and he felt like he owed Eve a good life, but then was in love with somebody else the whole time.
Yeah, but he wasn't just in love with somebody else the whole time. He was also banging Anne. So like,
alrighty then. Well, I don't think they ever. If you're talking about Katie, I don't think they ever got off the ground to make that love. They were clearly like infatuated with each other. Like there was a chemistry there, but that was about it. So, which may be why she wakes up with his name on her lips every morning. It's like, well, what if we actually saw this play out? Chances are you're not going to have his name on your lips. Because either A, he'll be there, or B, you'll be glad he's gone. Either way. So,
I mean, had the accident not happened, he still would have been having this relationship with Anne anyway. So like,
well, as soon as Katie found out, he did what he could to end end it with Anne, and Anne was like, "What the hell?" But it was so.
Well,
with that in mind, maybe he may have been he had changed his situation with Anne for Katie, but for Eve, it wasn't the same.
Right. Well, he claimed that he was there seeing Anne in that moment to break it off with her. That was what he had told Katie. So maybe it was true.
Yeah, maybe it wasn't. I don't know. Just coincidental. I was like, yeah, I totally was stopping it at this meeting, this one particular meeting.
When you walked in, and it was supposed to be ended before you found out. My bad.
Right. Yeah. So is he feeling guilty about being found out, or for actually doing, keeping your string along this long? Who knows?
So when Anne was introduced as his godmother, who did that? Tinker said that? Tinker said, "This is my godmother, Anne"?
I think Anne did.
Like a fairy godmother? Like,
no, just godmother, I'd say. It's something that's, I guess, family enough that, was like, well, you wouldn't suspect this relationship.
Right.
So clearly that was the purpose.
Correct. That was my assumption too.
But obviously they don't look at anything like each other, so like, it's obvious you're not family. So yeah, this is what we came up with apparently. One of the scenes I liked in the book, and so I could easily see this being a movie. I don't know if it's being made into one, but is the paper airplane scene. When he shoots that was a fun one. Yeah. Where Dickie is, saying, "Hey, play this," like a request. So that was cool. The way it was written and such. So and it does have its moments, but is it? I don't know. To me, it is like The Great Gatsby in the sense that nothing really happens per se, but that's not the point of the book. It's like how Katie presents herself and how she presents herself to the world of New York, and because clearly Anne gets her the position, but she makes the most of it herself. Her and the other secretary. They say, "Hey, let's make it so that they have to keep both of us." And it's like, okay,
yeah, that was smart. I imagine that actually happens pretty often.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. To make themselves both indispensable. So it turns out that she was the graphic designer, I think, for that cover, the first cover of the magazine, Gotham, or something like that. She had some part in it. I can't remember what now. So
I don't recall.
Talking about Tate's magazine.
Yeah. Gotham. Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like a lot happens in The Great Gatsby. But something that I thought was interesting was that John and I just recently went to an author event, and the author is a thriller writer. And so he kept bringing up Agatha Christie a lot.
Right.
So I thought it was interesting that so much of it was in this book, mentions of Agatha Christie. I'm going to have to read one of those.
It's a classic literature that's mentioned in here.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've
never read.
Made me want to start reading some older things, but now I'm scared of it too.
Why?
It's just a lot to take in, and especially, but I want to know who and what situations they're referencing when they're talking about why this person carried around Walden or the other person that was reading Hemingway.
I read, what was the one?
They're character descriptions that you're meant to understand if you've read those books.
I think my connection's going out now. Yeah, he does that in he makes references, and if you know the source material, it's like, okay, I know what you're referring to, sort of a thing. So
I've also never read Great Expectations.
oh, I have way back when, and I know the reference that he makes in the book. So
I'm
because that's
not
one of
one.
the famous scenes.
There's a couple of them.
I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like Great Expectations is also mentioned in All Our Wrong Todays.
Great Expectations is mentioned in a lot of media we've been coming across in the past year,
Mhm.
2 years.
Maybe that's a hint to read. Actually, read it.
I think it is.
So, but like I said, I read it in high school. I if we do it for here, I would gladly read it again. But going back to The Great Gatsby, it's not that to me, like, oh, you went to a party with rich people. That's not really a happening. Now, granted, yes, in The Great Gatsby, we do have, well, spoilers for The Great Gatsby, something happening at the end, which happens here at the beginning, without saying exactly what it is, But mainly, it's just, in the case here with Rules of Civility, it's basically, how Katie lives her life, and how she gets to New York, and or no, she is in New York, and how she meets Evelyn, and how her life unfolds from that.
I'm actually wondering how many of the 110 treatises that she actually lived by, and that whether or not we can pinpoint Tinker having any failings. That maybe the actual book is about her and her following all of those rules versus the rest of the people around her breaking them and then not actually coming out on top.
Right. Well, to be fair, I mean, it was interesting because in the audiobook, I don't know if you guys listened to it, but they include them in the audiobook at the end.
Yeah.
Oh, it's in the ebook too.
Right. No, but I would expect that in the ebook, but not in the audiobook because it's cheaper not to have it.
Well, I mean, they actually had her read them off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, I wouldn't expect that though. That's what I was pleasantly surprised. It's like, oh, look, they're all here. So, but I don't know. It's Tinker also is trying to make his way in the world, and much like Evelyn is, and sometimes you do things which are questionable to do that. So that's not a judgment. That's just an observation. So, I mean, if somebody extended that sort of offer to a person, it's like who would say no?
Why did she end up leaving her first job? Because she was like making a decent amount of money, and then she like left that job and went to another job that was paying her
to Tate, right?
I think so. If that was
her original one, like the original job she had, was basically an assistant to that older gentleman at the publishing house, and he was straight out with it. It's like, yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money, here.
But before that job, she had a different
before that
job.
one.
Yeah,
okay.
She had a different one where she was making almost double that amount.
Was she an assistant to a lawyer?
Oh yes, the stenographer, like the secretary's job. Yeah. Okay, now I remember. Yeah, she's part of what was then the secretarial pool.
Okay. I mean, she did read a lot, so it makes sense that she'd want to be more in like publishing or whatever.
Yeah, but that followed something specific in the book, and I wish I could remember what it was now.
Her actually wanting to be sure that she was in the foundation of something, that way when it actually took off, that she was there to be a part of it.
Beginning, right? Yeah.
Versus just working her way into a position that everybody else is striving for.
Right. I thought something happened with Anne, though, and I could be wrong about that. But, well, at any rate, that's, she does eventually quit, thankfully. And, she, for, her first non-secretarial job, she makes I guess a somewhat decent living, but, like I said, the guy told her, yeah, you're not going to make a lot of money here. Sorry. But then Anne interfered and she got the job with Tate. So, but it's just interesting to see how, clearly she's talented and clearly she can do a lot of things. And, this is the way she chooses to make her living, I guess is my point. Much like with Evie, yeah, well, I had the accident. Well, how am I going to make my living now? Well,
Mm-hmm. I thought it was an interesting addition that, like, I guess one of the jazz players had been asking about Evie.
Yes. That was a little surprising.
I mean, Katie was surprised too. She was like,
Yeah.
wow, I didn't realize that she had embedded herself into the jazz scene so much that they were asking about her.
Yep. And that's also, the idea of rich people touring like the jazz clubs back then, because they were clearly like lower class. It was something new and interesting, to them.
Huh. So now just put together the fact that if Tinker wouldn't have been able to even do what he did for Eve if it wasn't for Anne.
Right.
Right.
It's just all that's crazy.
Yeah, but of course, if it wasn't for Anne, they wouldn't have a car, And,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
yeah.
just having Eve, just paying for Eve to do all these things because, or having all the vacations and luxury things to make sure she's happy in her life. None of that would have happened if he was on the wharf.
Mm-hmm. Well, he probably would have met her at that point.
Well,
I'm saying if he cut everything off with Anne because he was falling for somebody else,
Oh, okay.
Where's the money going to come from?
Well, the fact that he, like, I don't know.
Well, we know the answer to that, I guess, because
just that he proposed to Eve, like, was that Anne's ring from somewhere, or like?
I mean, she knew it was happening at least.
Yeah.
And I think she also knew and understood that Eve was probably going to take the ring and run. That's interesting.
Game recognizes game, I think is what that is. But, and like I said, sometimes, the books that are best for discussion aren't always the most favorite books, but, So, can we think of anything else, or should I go to the questions?
You can probably go to the questions.
Okay. This is from Mr. Towles' website, so I'm hoping they're good. At the outset, Rules of Civility appears to be about the interrelationship between Katie, Tinker, and Eve, but then events quickly lead to Eve and Tinker off stage. Are Dickie Vanderweil, Wallace Walcott, Litsy, Peaches, Hank, and Anne Grandin as essential to Katie's story as Tinker and Eve? If so, what role do you think each plays in fashioning the Katie of the future?
I don't remember Peaches.
She was the topless model. Remember that she said, oh, you'll never get it was something like for that. I think it was for the cover or something like that. You'll never get anybody to pose for that. And sure enough, well, we know somebody. She was the model for Tinker's paintings too. That's what it was too. That's how she's in the story.
Interesting. So something Peaches says has a lot to do with what Tinker does, or what Kate does, coming across her or them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I guess Wallace teaches her how to shoot a gun.
Mm-hmm.
And she seemed to develop like an appreciation for their like deep friendship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was cool, great the way they played that. It's like, yeah, we know we're not going to, be romantic, but we can still enjoy each other's company, sort of a thing.
Well, it was like she refers to it as practice.
Yes. Well,
which I thought was kind of funny. But
also too, I got the impression that they had Wallace in the book to show how people who are used to having money act with it, rather than Tinker, who clearly was not, has money. So
interesting.
And the thing that since we're talking about Dickie for a second here, that seemed like immediate, like pretty immediate. That she like it's almost like she says, "No, screw you, Tinker, I'm out of here," and then she immediately goes to Dickie Vanderwild's house and, all right, let's take a bath together. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, that escalated quickly.
Yeah. And it's like, I didn't think there was any like lead up to that. So it's like, I don't know if it's just like, revenge.
I missed that whole thing.
Really?
Yeah, I thought they were just friends.
Like,
I did not.
Well, all right, no Dickie, no, no Tinker, I go get Dickie.
That's why you're the nickname that. No. Oh yeah, I guess it seemed like right when she left what it was, the cafe or whatever they were at, and I was like right over to Dickie's place. It's like, okay,
spite Dickie.
and then she stays with him, which kind of surprised me too, because they didn't seem like they would be compatible, but who knows.
But then it was like, it was Dickie that made her realize she like really cared about Tinker, because Dickie was the one that was like, I think you're giving him too much slack, like too much flack.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, he was the one who
hard on him.
Uncovered her crush on him still. So unfortunate. And that's why I said it's like, is it rebound? That's where I want it. It seemed like a rebound relationship to me. Even though, Tinker and Katie never had a relationship per se. But apparently it's close enough that
I mean, people still have emotions. It doesn't have to be. They don't have to have been in a deep relationship to still feel betrayed or upset or whatever the case is.
And with Bitsy, I think Bitsy, shows her how to navigate New York in the sense of, do what you want to do, and be forceful doing it, be a strong character.
I don't remember. I remember the name Grub, but I don't remember who he was or what he did, or other than just being. Was it Bitsy? It wasn't Bitsy and Grub.
I think it was Bitsy.
Oh.
They ended up together.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's one of the longshoremen that was with Hank and that crew at the beginning when we first meet them in the bar. So
Hank is so rough.
Mm-hmm.
Like, of all the characters, he's just. I feel like multiple times throughout the book, Kate says that, Tinker said that she would like Hank. But the whole time I'm thinking, like, he's the biggest dick in this whole book. He was just so confrontational and so.
Mm-hmm. And also the lowest class person that we see on, up front, not as a background like a servant or something like that. Which brings me to the idea that Katie had. It's like, why should we talk to the rich people? Let's talk to their servants. They'll give us the cost. And sure enough,
it's true. No matter where you go, you just got to find the one that's talking to everybody else.
Yes. So, yeah, and I remember the scene where she says, "Oh yeah, it seems like she has a few applicants," but then you look and the line goes all the way down the block, to get stories from. They never said the outcome of that. I figured it was going to be something like, that the Anne's doings were exposed, and it was like not just with Tinker, but with like a long line of people. But that never materialized either.
What was Tinker's real name?
Teddy.
Theodore.
Theodore Gray.
Mm-hmm. And we're also given Tinker's backstory too. They started wealthy, but then their dad lost it all. To the point they also lost Tinker's college fund too. So, and the way you're initially given the impression is that Tinker by himself, clawed his way back up to being rich, but that's not the case apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think a lot of the book is about how people present themselves and what their inner person is like, and the disconnect between the two of them. So,
okay,
that's why, especially like when you said Katie's like, oh, should I tell Val about this? Like, no, probably not. But when it's clear from the opening scene, she had a relationship or something with Tinker, just from the way it's written. But yeah, she chose to keep that to herself.
So you think it might be actually a mask for the the fact that Katie acted and played and did all these things with Eve, but deep down she's not really that kind of person. She'd rather just go and sit in the home and read a book, go to the museum.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because how much is that is Eve and how much of that is Katie? You don't know.
Having the money to play like that is kind of
that's the other
important.
thing. Yes. Yeah. No, it wasn't one of the quotes. I think I have to look at my highlights for a second. There's one that they talk about that. Shoot. Let's see. No. I'm not saying it, but they did say something about that. By having the means, like, if you're not rich, then yeah, you have more practical concerns than like where's the next meal coming from, and the ridiculous bullshit that. So.
I mean, Katie did seem like she was mostly content, just kind of chilling and reading the books and right. And,
as I said, that's a little too obvious.
And going to work, and it seemed like she was just bumping into people left and right. They were like, "Oh, come with me, I'll buy you a drink," or "Let's hang out here, let's catch up."
Well, she does have the advantage of being young and pretty and female in New York, or anywhere really. Doesn't matter where, but. That's her. That was her initial in. The both of them, Katie and Eve. That's how they got on Tinker's radar. And he got on theirs because he was rich. So, look how that works out. It opened the door, but they made once they were inside, both of them made their own way. much like Katie did with the Gotham. You know, she got inside on Anne's recommendation, but she made her own way in it for sure. So, what time are we up to here? Oh, we're pretty far.
Excuse me.
Are we continuing, or are we gonna call it here, or what?
I don't know if I have too much more to add. I don't think. Do you?
I don't know how many questions you got left over there.
Oh, I got a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just you want to pick one or two more, or
Yeah,
okay,
maybe,
Colin.
like-
No pressure. Okay.
Yeah, I'm.
All right. Since this one mentions Agatha Christie, I'll choose this one. Katie observes at one point that Agatha Christie doles out her little surprises at the carefully calibrated pace of a nanny dispensing sweets to the children in her care. Something similar could be said of how Katie doles out information about herself. What sort of things is Katie slow to reveal, and what drives her reticence?
I mean, I feel like one of the things she was slow to admit was like her feelings about Tinker.
No, she didn't.
I mean, like she didn't reveal it to her husband, and
Right.
she kind of didn't even want to reveal it to herself. It felt like she didn't want to admit it. It was like Dickie who had like eventually pulled it out of her.
Right.
That was the elephant in the room every time they were together.
Yeah.
And somehow Eve knew. Wait, they all knew.
No, they like because before the car accident, I thought it was pretty obvious that there was some chemistry between them. Didn't they also kiss?
They may have. I think so.
I thought they did. I thought they kissed before the accident, like almost immediately before the accident, like wherever they were before they got in the car, and like.
And even if they didn't, that's definitely where it was headed. But.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then the car accident, and then he felt beholden to Eve, and then.
Right.
And I'm sure Eve hated everything about that. Like, she might have also been interested in Tinker, but then to get him out of pity was like...
Right. And credit to her dad, who called it. Like, he's like, I know what's going to happen, and, trust you to do the right thing, which Tinker actually did. It was the daughter that was maybe not on the up and up. So...
That's crazy.
But yeah, I think that's just the way people armor themselves, against information is power, and I don't want you to have power over me, so therefore I won't reveal anything. And with her husband Val, it's like what good would it do to tell him? Other than to piss him off, and then
well, she
got to deal with that.
Think that it would actually piss him off. She seemed to think that like he would handle it without any issues. But what's the point really after all that time? Like, what's the point of bringing it up?
Yeah, regardless, what's the point? Get upset something that was like 20 some years ago. So let's see, one more. Well, these are long questions.
They tend to be like essay-like questions.
I don't think he wrote them, but
yeah, they don't need to say explain afterwards.
Right. Oh, this one sounds like the author himself, so I'll read it. Upon completion of this book, one of my guilty pleasures has been imagining how Eve was doing in Hollywood. When Eve says, "I like it just fine on this side of the windshield," what does she mean? And why is the life Tinker offers her so contrary to the new life she intends to pursue?
She likes staying on the correct side of the windshield because she already flew through one of them.
Right.
So she's starting on the other side. She was still getting hit with all the drama, all the trash from that. So running away from that into Hollywood, she got to be able to control her life without that crash really dictating it.
Mm-hmm.
outside of the scar on her face, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, but she got to like just completely reinvent herself,
Mhm.
and people could stop. You know, even if you see somebody with a scar, you don't know the whole story, but like the people who did know the whole story were probably always looking on her with pity.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Yes.
From the get-go, she always said that, you know, like when they were going through who they wanted to be, she said right out, I think, was it Selznick? Yeah, the director. That's who she wanted to be. So, well, that going to Hollywood is a good first step for that. So clearly, she had a clearly defined goal in mind, you know, and she went after it. So. Oh, it says here. Oh, I didn't know this. I don't know if you published these. To satisfy my own curiosity, I eventually wrote a series of 6 interlinked short stories called Even Hollywood. I expect these stories to be included in the forthcoming collection of my short stories. So that's interesting.
That's interesting. What was the most recent book that he published? Because I think it was like a book of the month option at some point.
What's that?
What was the most recent thing he published?
What was?
That's what I'm asking. What was the most recent title he published?
The short
Amor
stories?
Towles. No. He had a book that came out not that long ago. Because I remember seeing the cover.
Would that be Lincoln Highway?
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if that's a novel or if that's a collection of short stories, though. So I guess it's rating time, right?
Yes.
Tis.
Yes. You can do final thoughts.
I'll lead it off since you always
I was
look
looking
at me.
at you.
Always looking at me first. 4 stars. I enjoyed it. Didn't blow my socks off, but it was it was a good read.
Right.
That's it. That's all you got. That's like
short and sweet, man.
I think
keep it simple.
I'm like a 3.5 rounded down.
Already too complicated for me.
You got a page out of my book now. All right.
I enjoyed it while I was reading it. I might be open to reading something else by him, but I don't know. I don't know why I didn't feel super connected. I know there was things going on, and like I was interested to find out, like, does she end up with Tinker? Does she not end up with Tinker? Like, do these people die? What happens to them? And like I loved the fact that it took place in New York City. But
I'm gonna say that the only thing that I know it was in first person perspective, but you did not get enough of her thoughts on any matter. So that's probably why you didn't enjoy it as much. That's what you wanted. That's what you want. You want to hear what they're thinking. When you hear what they're feeling.
Wow.
I mean, that's true. We had this conversation recently, so not necessarily about this book, but just first person in general. That a lot of people read first person books and say that they're boring because so much of it is that internal dialogue, and I eat that stuff up. I love it.
And improv, they tell us
here.
For live shows, they don't want to hear what your character's thinking. They want to know what your character's doing. Right. So majority of the audience is in that category.
Mm-hmm. But that goes in with Katie's characters because she is reticent to reveal herself. So
I did find myself like Googling different things. Like I was, like I think they kept going to some place called Chernoff's, I think.
Yes.
And I was trying to figure out if that was a real place. My search did not yield any results, but I did find that there's a speakeasy that still exists called The Back Room, which I thought was kind of cool.
I'm willing to bet that it was a parody of a name of a place.
Yeah, probably. Something like that. He might have searched something up.
Mm-hmm.
But I do remember her reflecting on the sculpture of Atlas across the street from the St. Patrick's Church. So I was like, let me see what that looks like. I sent John a picture, just to remind myself of all the things she was referencing.
Right.
So,
also too, it's to me, she was not her, but maybe her grandfather was like an immigrant from Russia apparently, because her actual last name was Russian.
Mm-hmm.
So again, covering over, assimilating in, I guess is probably the better word for it. So
Mm.
I ended up giving it 4 stars. So Mike, I mean, I was debating, but toward the end, it's like, okay, I see what you're trying to do here. I think, so like I said, it was interesting to see now. Now, if you read the first chapter again, you do so with so much more understanding of
Yeah.
the story.
I meant to go back and read the first chapter again, but it felt fresh enough.
Yes.
You maybe should have.
Yeah.
So we got 4, 4, and a 3.5 rounded down.
3. Just say it.
3. So for the month of February, we are reading. Oh, here you have it pulled up already. Let's see if the
Song of Achilles.
Yes, the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I've heard a lot about it and about her writing. I also have Circe, but
I read Circe. It was good.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Okay. I was waiting to read this one first because I think she published this one first, right?
Yes, that's how she made her name. Yes.
Yeah.
She's part of what I call the New Greeks, because you look on Amazon, there's like any number of female novelists who are now writing about Greek mythology, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I've been picking up more of it. I think Natalie Haynes might be another one. Yeah,
it is.
So I have Stone Blind that I purchased from her a little bit ago. So that is what we're reading. I'm sure I don't even know exactly what it's about. So I feel like there is a love story in there though, which is why I picked it. I picked 3 different love stories. But I
know the love story that is in there, knowing the Greek myth, but yes.
I tried to pick love stories and not necessarily romances, but
I mean, for February,
yeah,
I
that's what I'm
understand.
saying.
It's okay.
That was the vibe I was going for. So anyway,
honestly, February should be the only one of the where you're allowed to pick a romance for that month. But thank you.
Even if it's a YA romance, yeah.
So we will be discussing that probably I would think maybe the first week in March, since we have less days this month. But I will be sharing that somewhere, probably the Goodreads, a little bit later, our Goodreads group, just to share the date and stuff. If you are still here and you've been here this whole time, thank you. And one more time, if you ever want to join us on screen for our book discussions, you can do that by becoming a book club VIP member on patreon.com/Libri Labra. So again, thanks for being here and see you next month.
Bye guys.
Bye.
Bye.